Friendships and relationships are some of the most important things in our lives. No man is an island is a phrase from a poem by author John Donne. It references the fact that no man or woman can be totally self sufficient or accomplish tasks in this life by themselves. We do not excel when we are totally isolated and alone. Most of us realize this and form many friendships and relationships throughout the course of our lives. We have familial relationships, school friends, and work friends. Some friendships last for only a season, while others run the course of a lifetime. Friendships take on different characteristics. There are times when you're friends with someone and they also serve as a mentor to you. They may be in a better position professionally, personally, or financially, but they choose to befriend you and you realize that you both have something to offer each other. Then there are times when you are the one who's in the mentoring position, or you may be doing better in certain areas than your friend. But again, you both bring something valuable to the table that allows the friendship to grow. Along the way, you discover that friendship offers all sorts of things. You can ask the person for counseling, help with finances, and or help with physical things such as moving to a new house. There are people who have even donated a kidney to a friend in need. But if you're truly friends with someone, there's one constant that is always present. You don't use the person or abuse the trust of the relationship. Our friendships mean a lot to us. Our friends are our confidants, companions, and an important part of our lives. But there's one friendship that we often overlook, take for granted, or don't think is attainable. And that is the friendship that we could have and should have with God. Our need and desire for friendships and relationships didn't appear out of nowhere. We were created in God's image, and He is relational. Proverbs 18:24 tells us, "A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother." That friend is God. But as the scripture says, we have to show ourselves friendly towards God. We don't just wake up one day and have friends. We make them. We actively pursue the friendship. The same is true for friendship with God. God has called all of us into fellowship with Him. Ephesians 1:4 tells us, "He hath chosen us in Him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before Him in love." Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, says Jeremiah 1:5. God has a life plan for all of us, and His goal is to allow us to live according to His will, and we should allow Him to fulfill His plan in us. That requires that we develop a relationship, a friendship with Him. Like the ultimate friend, He wants to be there for us in every aspect of our lives, and so He calls us to Him. And we know that all things work together for the good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. And even though God calls all of us, He leaves it up to us to answer. We have to pursue and develop a friendship with Him. And that starts with our belief and faith in Jesus Christ. We have redemption, forgiveness, and reconciliation to the Father through the blood of Christ. Ephesians 1:7. In Philippians 3:10, the Apostle Paul shows that his greatest longing in life was to experience nearness and fellowship with Christ in all aspects. The scripture says, "That I may know Him and the power of His resurrection and the fellowship of His sufferings, being made conformable unto His death." First, know Him. Second, hunger to understand the things He suffered, even to the point of suffering them yourself for knowing Him. Third, when we wake up each morning, we should open ourselves to the understanding that He lives, and mainly in each of us through the things that we do in His character and likeness. In other words, it's our task to do things in the manner that Christ did them while here on earth. Ephesians 4:29. We are to lead our lives more and more like Christ. We are to peel off the old man and put the new one on as we are born again. 2 Corinthians 5:17 and Ephesians 4:23 through 25. We have a tendency to mirror people that we admire and respect, especially if they are one of our friends. As a friend of Christ, we should do the same thing with him. It's not easy. It takes work developing that friendship. Friends know each other. We take time to fellowship and visit with one another. And that's why prayer is so important in our lives when we talk about knowing God. Our prayer time is the time that we spend fellowshipping with God. It shouldn't only be about telling him our concerns and problems, but praising him, worshiping him, and listening for his voice in response to us. Friends share their plans. Often we are so caught up in our wants and needs that we don't desire to know God more so that he can reveal the things he is doing in our lives and the world. That is how we begin to know his nature and never doubt him. Friends draw close. We must always continue our quest to know him. When we look at the people that God has called friend, they all had one thing in common. They actively seeked after God. The Bible tells us, "And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend." Exodus 33:11. God considered Moses as a close friend that he could talk to face. You may say to yourself, "Yeah, that was Moses. I'm no Moses." What you have to realize is that Moses put in the work. He didn't just start out by having this type of relationship with the Lord. Moses was a murderer. When God first appeared to him, Moses didn't just say, "Hi, friend." The Bible tells us when God revealed himself via the burning bush, Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. Exodus 3:6. The prophet Elijah was in such a right relationship with God that he never experienced death. 2 Kings 2:11 through 12. The Bible never refers to Elijah as God's friend, but Elijah exhibited the traits of friendship towards God in his obedience and dedication to God and his commandments. In return, God was faithful, loyal, and demonstrated the ultimate kindness to Elijah by miraculously transporting him to heaven, showing his complete approval of the prophet's work, spirit, and ministry. Then there was Abraham. James 2:23 says, "And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God." Isaiah 41:8 says, "But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend." God was telling Israel not to fear destruction, because he had chosen them to carry out his promise of redemption that he made to their ancestors, beginning with his friend Abraham, and he would not break that covenant. And how do you become a man after God's own heart? Look at David. In spite of all of his problems, that is how God referred to David in 1 Samuel 13:14, Acts 13:22. How did David achieve this? David believed in God from his youth. 1 Samuel 17:34 and 37. He continually sought the face and counsel of God. 1 Samuel 23:2 and 4, 1 Samuel 30 and 8, 2 Samuel 2:1, 5:19, and verse 23. He worshiped God with his whole being. 1 Chronicles 15:16. And he humbly recognized that God was the real king of Israel and that he was only God's representative. 2 Samuel 5:12. Being humble is such an important aspect of our friendship with God. We have to remember that our friendship with God is given to us by grace. We benefit through no deeds of our own. Ephesians 2:8 through 10. On a human level, it's like the nerdy, geeky guy being friends with the star football player. Through the popularity and power of the football player, The geek gets benefits and protection that he would never have without that friendship. No one knows or understands why the football player showed mercy and kindness to the geek, but he did. We have blessings, opportunities, and victories that we would never have if it weren't for the grace of God. We also have protection that we couldn't gain anywhere else. Jesus tells Peter, "Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren." Luke 22:31 through 32. As our heavenly intercessor, Jesus prays for everyone who, quote, comes unto God by him, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them. Hebrews 7:25. These are the benefits that we reap when we live as friends of God. In return, his expectation is that we will not just take his friendship and keep it bottled up inside, but use the strength we gain from it and show friendship to and be a light for others. We have missed some great opportunities because we haven't pursued a friendship that is freely given to us. Jesus tells us in John 15:15, "No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all things that I heard from my Father I have made known to you." We are privy to that inside information and friendship with the star player. If we are lacking in that relationship, it's as James 4:2 tells us, "Ye have not, because ye ask not." We have not prayerfully asked to know God and his ways, and that should be our prayer. The prayer that as we get to know him through spending time with him in a daily relationship, we'll discover both the riches of being in his presence and the fullness of joy that comes from knowing him personally as our friend.